again, as always, it is me, Indah Melindasari from ONEderland Consulting. I have over 10 years experience as a migration agent and was once a migrant myself. Please click subscribe to get all the best Australian immigration content and updates. Well, it feels like it's been an eternity of waiting, but now, finally and officially, Australia has opened its international borders to all Australian visa holders that are fully vaccinated. There is still a long road ahead to get back to migration and arrival numbers pre-pandemic, but this is still a huge step of back to normality. Before we start, I would like to give you a mention to our sister company Education One Australia. They handle all aspects of international study in Australia, from finding you right course and institution to assisting you in any issues that may come up, such as COE or confirmation of enrollment and student visa cancellations or refusals, and helping you plan your post-study career and visa pathway. With us at ONEderland Consulting as their in-house migration agent, we provide our expertise, knowledge, and experience to handle visa matters involved in your studies, just as we do for all our valued clients. Education One has all your international study needs covered, so if you or a family member is interested in studying in Australia or needs assistance, reach out to this wonderful team. You can find a link to their contact information and website in the description. Now let's get started with the latest immigration news for March 2022. Part 1. Update on borders and travel restrictions. Australian international border now opened for all fully vaccinated travelers. Already enrolled international students can now enter WA. Part 2. Changes to business and work visas. South Australia opened registrations of interest to offshore applicants for occupations. Tasmania has provided an update on its 2021-2022 skilled migration programs. Extension for subclass 485, 489, 491 and 494 visa holders. Alright, let's start it with part 1. Update on borders and travel restrictions. We usually start our news videos off with any news on updates regarding the border restrictions, but today, this may be the last time I will be starting off with this topic. Why, you ask? Well, as most of you probably know, by now as of February 21st, the Australian international border has been opened for all Australian visa holders as long as they are fully vaccinated. This means an end to a need for travel exemptions to enter Australia, and they can finally welcome tourists back on visitor visas. This should be a big boost for the struggling tourism industry and welcome news for those waiting to visit family and friends that were not eligible for the travel exemption. So what are the requirements to enter Australia with a valid visa at the moment? First of all, you will have to have proof of 2 doses of one of the approved vaccines. Currently, the approved vaccines are Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Janssen, and Novavax. You will need to have completed the Digital Passenger Declaration or DPD. You can start your DPD 7 days before your flight and submit it within 72 hours prior to your departure for Australia. This is because you must provide your health information and declaration or vaccinated status and COVID-19 test results within 72 hours before your flight. A negative COVID-19 test result will also be provided evidence of a negative COVID-19 PCR or other nucleic acid amplification test or NAAT test taken within 3 days before your flight scheduled departure, or a medical certificate as a proof of a negative rapid antigen test taken under a medical supervision within 24 hours before your flight scheduled departure, must be provided to your airline when you check in. If your flight is delayed, you will still be considered to have met the pre-departure testing requirements. You will not need a new test. However, if your flight is rescheduled or cancelled, you will need to provide evidence of a negative COVID-19 PCR test or other NAAT test taken no more than 3 days before the rescheduled flight, or rapid antigen test taken within 24 hours before the rescheduled flight. Just be aware that when entering Australia, you will still be subject to local requirements, which may mean still having to undergo a quarantine period depending on the state or territory. On the subject of state and territory requirements, already enrolled international students can now enter Western Australia. Western Australia has been subject to some of the hardest restrictions during the pandemic period and should be very welcome news for the many international students in universities in Perth and beyond. To enter Western Australia as a student, you will need to provide your travel plans and indicate whether you will be traveling directly or transiting through a different state or territory. You will have to meet the vaccine requirements we stated earlier along with the DPD. As of March, there will no longer be a mandatory quarantine period when entering Western Australia. Another requirement is the G2G pass, which is required for all travelers entering Western Australia. Applications can be made as long as 60 days before the expected travel date on the state government G2G portal. Returning students should choose enrolled students in WA as their classification to fall inside the new travel rules. Part 2. Changes to business and work visas. On to skilled migration and employee-sponsored scheme visas news. Starting with some great news for those of you working in regional South Australia. Applicants currently residing and working for the last 12 months in outer regional South Australia in any occupation, does not have to be a skilled occupation nor related to your nominated occupation, may be eligible to be nominated for a 491 visa nomination. If you are currently residing and working for the last 24 months in regional South Australia outside of the Greater Adelaide area, you may be eligible to be nominated for 190 visa nomination. Just like the 491, this does not need to be for an occupation on the skilled occupation list or your nominated occupation. As South Australia continues to face labour shortages, they have also opened registration of interest to offshore applicants for occupation on the state skilled occupation list on the 16th February 2022. The applicants must meet all Home Affairs, South Australian, specific and occupational requirements. Also moving on to Tasmania. Tasmania has provided an update on its 2021-22 Skilled Migration Program. Tasmania's nomination code for the 2021-22 program year is Subclass 491, 2,200 places and 1,274 places used. Subclass 190, 1,100 places, 731 places used. To manage the remaining places effectively, we'll focus be around 3 different priority groups. The first one, candidates with employment and a skill assessment related to the critical roles such as health, allied health, infrastructure, and engineering, and a skills assessment directly related to that role. Second, candidates with employment and skill assessment related to the Tasmanian skilled occupation list. Third, candidates with employment directly related to the nominated skill assessment. Finally, for our news today, the government is offering extensions for subclass 485, 489, 491, and 494 visa holders that were affected by the travel restrictions in order so that they can stay on track for permanent resident pathways. This concession extends certain subclass 485 visas to 30 September 2022 to provide time for a visa holder affected by travel restrictions to apply for a replacement subclass 485 visa. These visas will be available from mid-2022. Visas that ceased during this relevant period are also extended even though they have ceased. To be eligible for the extension, the primary applicant must have been outside of Australia at any time between 1st of February 2020 and 14 December 2021, hold or held a subclass 485 visa which was in effect during that time, which has ceased or will have ceased before 1st of October 2022 and was not cancelled and has not been granted another substandard visa, and relevant family members' visa are also extended. Skilled Regional Professional subclass 481 visa holders to have their visa extended for a period of 3 years from their original cessation date to allow these visa holders to meet the requirements for permanent residency. Visas that ceased during this relevant period are also extended even though they have ceased. To be eligible for this visa validity extension, the primary visa holders must have been outside of Australia for any length of time between the 1st February 2020 and 14 December 2021 inclusive, and hold or held a subclass 489 visa during that time, which has not been cancelled, and relevant family members' visa are also extended. Concessions for holders of skilled work professional subclass 491 visas and skilled employer-sponsored regional subclass 494 visa holders to maintain their relevant pathways to permanent residency have been put in place as well. To be eligible for this visa validity extension, the primary visa holder must have been outside of Australia for any length of time between the 1st February 2020 and 14 December 2021 inclusive, and held a subclass 491 or 494 during that time, and that is in effect on 18 February 2022 and which has not been cancelled, and of course relevant family members' visa are also extended. Well, that's the run-up of all the changes and updates for March 2022. If you have any questions about how these changes may affect you or benefit you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, leave a comment or questions, and we'll get back to you ASAP. You can find our contact details in the description and in the comments, so feel free to send an email or call with an inquiry, and our advisors will be there for all your visa needs. ONEderland Consulting is here to help you. As always, thank you for watching.